Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your back porch professor, on this crisp, cold final day of 2025. What a year it's been, and it may in fact be the final year of the Democratic Party as we know it. We're staring straight into the face of what is exploding into the single biggest political scandal in modern American history. And note I didn't say a financial scandal, right? I didn't say a money laundering scandal or a Minnesota scandal. This is all just tip of the iceberg. What's happening in Minnesota is shaping up to be a political scandal, the likes of which we have simply never seen. And it doesn't just implicate one corrupt politician or one corrupt state. This is a scandal that threatens to take down the entire Democrat machine. We're talking all across the country. Now, you may have heard that the feds have already arrested upwards of 100 people involved in the welfare fraud in Minnesota. But as it turns out, again, that's just the tip of the massive iceberg. FBI Director Kash Patel is calling the investigation precisely that. It is utterly massive. It is something we have never seen before. It's about a systematic looting of taxpayer dollars that reaches into the tens of billions. It touches multiple states, and it has Democrat politicians' fingerprints all over it. Now, a lot of this is coming on the heels of independent journalist Nick Shirley's amazing investigative work that shamed every single legacy media outlet in the nation. He did what the entire Minnesota government refused to do. He did what the legacy media refused to do. He actually physically visited these so-called daycare centers that were getting hundreds of millions of dollars in tax revenue. And in every single case, every one, he found nothing but basically empty buildings. No kids, just theft. And his video investigations already hit over 120 million views. That's 35% of the entire US population. That's 70% of American voters. And he actually found 60 Somali-linked providers, all at one address in Minnesota. The Minnesota House Oversight Committee has already identified 45 daycare centers receiving at least $1 million each per year that were total frauds. And good old tampon Timmy Walls claimed Minnesota was investigating this a while back, but we're finding out that whistleblowers from his own health department said that he obstructed their investigation. And now we know why, because back in October 2023, Walls bragged about expanding Minnesota's child care giveaway to over $300 million. And as it turns out, he wasn't fixing the fraud, he was funding it. But here's where it gets absolutely explosive. The historian Larry Schweiker was writing about this in his Substack the other day. Every major department in the US government is now going to have a stake in exposing and punishing this. Everyone. Think about it. The Feeding Our Future fraud affects the Department of Agriculture, which oversees food centers. They're now investigating. The learning centers, you know, the ones that couldn't even spell learning, they misspelled learn, they left out the first R, leaning. That implicates the Department of Education. The fact that the perpetrators are 90% Somali migrants draws in the Department of Homeland Security. All the illegal activity brings in the DOJ. And then you add to that even the SEC, and that's because this was a multi-state fraud. If products were shipped in for fraud, it could also involve the Department of Transportation. In other words, every element of the federal government has an interest in crushing this. Again, this isn't just Minnesota. The same fraud template has been found in Ohio. It's being uncovered in California. It's being found in Illinois, where the DOJ has implicated hundreds of state employees in a comparable pandemic fraud. And here's the kicker. Assistant Attorney General Joe Thompson, who prosecuted the Feed Our Fraud scam in Minneapolis that Ilhan Omar had some association with, he says half of all Minnesota Medicaid expenditures were fraudulent. That was about $9 billion in one state alone. And if it's happening in Minnesota, you can bet it's happening in every blue state hellhole where Democrats control the purse strings. And that's exactly where all of this is ultimately ending up. The feds are starting with the street level fraudsters, and then they're following the money all the way up the chain. And that money trail leads directly to the Democrat machine. The same machine that flooded our country with unvetted migrants, the same machine that handed out billions of dollars in pandemic relief with zero oversight, the same machine that calls you a racist for questioning where your tax dollars went, right? We talked about that the other day. Tim Walz actually called the fraud investigation an example of white supremacy. We should tell you everything you need to know about what's going on here. I mean, the moment they run to the race card, you know they're covering up something, some scandal or another. And the beauty is that in the past, with the neocon rhinos overseeing the Republican Party, they were scared to death over being called a racist or a bigot. But now, with the new Trumpian revolution in full swing, the political right couldn't give a rip about being called racist because they know that that's just a veneer to cover up the Democrats' own corruption. Now, you notice as well, the same thing can be said about the legacy media's silence in all of this. No one, literally, not a single legacy media outlet is even remotely reporting on this unprecedented fraud ring. And that silence is absolutely deafening because it proves just how panicked the Democrats are. It proves they have no defense. It proves they can't spin this. It proves they can't blame Trump. And they certainly can't call it a conspiracy theory when 121 million people have seen the evidence with their own eyes. This is the scandal that really has the potential to destroy the Democrats. The fraud investigations wielded by virtually every arm of the federal government are beginning to expand everywhere. Even HUD now, right? The Department of Housing and Urban Development, even HUD is looking at Biden's rental assistance program because they're finding that it was sending payments to not just illegal migrants, but also people who had been dead for years. So both non-citizens and dead citizens were getting tens of millions of our tax dollars. And again, it all goes to the top. It all starts and ends with corrupt Democrat politicians who swindled the American taxpayer out of literally billions. It's happening. The storm is here, and we're just getting started. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button for breaking news and analysis you're not going to get anywhere else. Love you guys. A happy new year to each and every one of you. God bless.